mile beneath Manhattan are the tunnels where the Morlocks lived, until the Marauders killed them. Wolverine moves silently through the carnage, alert for the slightest sound, the smallest movement, the faintest scent of life. Violence is in his nature, murder is not. He means to find those responsible and pay them back in full measure. Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today we are doing another analysis video on the Mutant Massacre, this time focusing on Wolverine. And for those unfamiliar with the Mutant Massacre event in X-Men history, let me do a very quick breakdown of what it is. Basically, this is an X-Men crossover event where the Marauders, a team of mutant assassins, systematically slaughter the Morlocks, a group of mutant outcasts who live in New York's sewer system. This causes the X-Men to intervene and try and stop the ongoing brutalities, with writer Chris Claremont using this tragedy to expose moral fracturing in Xavier's dream and highlight the rising stakes of mutant survival in this hostile world. The first time we get Wolverine appearing in the Mutant Massacre event is this conversation he's having with Storm, where she's criticizing his recent actions of trying to chase down Rachel Summers, a time-displaced mutant daughter of Cyclops and Jean Grey from the Days of Future Past timeline, although the details of this aren't critically important to Mutant Massacre. But Wolverine was essentially trying to stop Rachel from murdering Selene the Black Queen, but in the aftermath of Wolverine confronting Rachel Summers, she has just completely vanished and disappeared. While this moment serves the purpose of wrapping up a previous storyline, it's also important to include here as a emotional and thematic primer to Mutant Massacre. Storm, the current leader of the X-Men, is demanding obedience from Wolverine, but that clearly clashes with his previously established lone wolf mentality that he even enacted here when he went to go hunt down Rachel Summers. But Storm forces him to confront his role as a member of this team, as a member of the X-Men, and as they end up clasping hands in this scene, Wolverine promises that he will be there for the X-Men to the end. Now, Wolverine's first visage of the war that has started is when one of the Morlocks comes to the Xavier Institute property, having burrowed from the underground tunnels and literally erupting onto the lawn of the mansion. A nice little visual metaphor here that the danger that has been bubbling has now surfaced and can no longer be avoided. This Morlock pleads with the X-Men to help before ultimately passing away from sustained injuries, and the ferocity within Wolverine can just not allow him to be a bystander to something like this. And as they're discussing it, he quickly turns to Storm for insight on their involvement in this. It's clear that he wants to get involved, which Storm definitely agrees with, and they end up taking the team of X-Men to the Morlock tunnels. In the effort of being saviors, though, the X-Men have descended into hell as they see the brutal outcome of the massacre so far, and they're quickly also hurled into the chaos as they become the first line of defense against the Marauders. They are immediately attacked by Vertigo, a mutant who causes spatial distortion, which has a nauseating effect, and Riptide, who shoots out razored projectiles. Colossus, being just a hunk of giant metal, and Wolverine, who has his healing factor and reflexes, help shield the team the best they can from these razor projectiles. But unfortunately, Nightcrawler can teleport and tries to do some good by taking out Vertigo, but Riptide gets the drop on him, and Wolverine tries to warn Nightcrawler, but Nightcrawler is currently not at 100% and he's not able to teleport out of the way, thus he takes on a major injury right here, which we'll talk more about when we do our Nightcrawler video on Mutant Massacre, so subscribe if that's something you'd like to see in the future. Wolverine's reaction to this is heroic guilt as he kicks himself for not being able to take out Riptide quick enough, and also makes a promise that he's got his scent now and he's going to hunt him down. Now, Vertigo and Riptide have also gotten away, and with this initial injury of the team and failure to stop the enemies, Wolverine's berserker anger is starting to boil within. The next encounter that Wolverine ends up getting in these tunnels is against the mutant Harpoon, who basically throws bio-infused energy harpoons around. But what's important is that Wolverine is now drawing blood against this opponent. Now this round of fighting ends and Harpoon is able to flee from this with the Scrambler when Colossus dramatically breaks Riptide's neck, thus killing them, which is a big, shocking, character-defining moment for Colossus there, and we'll talk about that in a future Colossus video. But for Wolverine's part in the story, before the team exits the tunnels, Storm is trying to remedy see how her leadership has led to such an utter failure here, with Wolverine signaling that she's being too hard on herself, but with that, she gives him a directive that aligns more with his previous nature as a lone wolf. Storm asks Wolverine to stay behind in the tunnels, hunt down the remaining Marauders, and bring one back for questioning, and to do what he pleases with the rest of them. As Wolverine starts searching through the Morlock tunnels though, we do get an interaction between him and Psylocke, who is telepathically checking in, and she tries to offer some insight and concern for Storm, but Wolverine's certainly not in the mood for her. She's an unknown variable at this time, she is new to the X-Men, and as he says later, she is a stranger still and not an X-Men, and so to some degree he gatekeeps some of the trauma that the X-Men are experiencing, and tells her to basically buzz off and he'll be in contact if he needs her. Now, a bit later on, as Wolverine is searching through the tunnels, he's suddenly slashed viciously across the back, a sneak attack from none other but Sabertooth himself, the feral foil to Wolverine. And guys, this is actually the first time we see them fight in a comic. Now, of course, there are many stories where it showcases us fights that happen chronologically before this, but this is the first time we actually got it in a comic book, which was really Claremont being conducive for other writers to work, because he really establishes here that Sabertooth and Wolverine have history. Sabertooth is clearly taunting him, he is ready for this fight, he's been wanting to fight, and Wolverine is in a bit of a predicament because Sabertooth currently has Healer, one of the Morlocks, held as a hostage, so Wolverine has to be careful because he doesn't want to jeopardize that life. And Sabertooth reveals some critical information here as he's taunting and boasting, and that is that the Marauders are working under the orders of Mr. Sinister. And it is really interesting to have the Morlock Healer here who has healing abilities because it adds a layer of complexity. On one hand, Sabertooth is almost baiting Wolverine to accept his destiny and past as a destroyer, while Healer is there as a circumstantial reminder that Wolverine has moved from that and is taking on more of a role of a protector now. After exchanging some back and forth, Wolverine is able to successfully goad Sabertooth into dropping Healer and engaging in a fight with him. And it's really this battle of Sabertooth just having this feral joy for everything that he's doing versus Wolverine's grim resolve and the existential stakes that he's dealing with. And to really emphasize this, the resolution of round 1 of them fighting, because we will see them fighting later on in Mutant Massacre 2, is Wolverine realizing that they are too evenly matched and the fight would just go on and on potentially, and he has to save Healer, he has to get him back to the X-Mansion so that Morlock can start using his healing abilities to help the others. So Wolverine opts to hack and slash and bring down part of the tunnel on Sabertooth, trapping him in the rubble. And Wolverine states the idea behind this moment perfectly as well when he says that he's learned about honor, a hard road more often than not, but worth the effort. A kind of rejection of cyclical violence that he may have enjoyed more so in his youth. After Wolverine delivers Healer back to the X-Mansion, we then later see him back in the tunnels with Storm, continuing their search. Wolverine did save somebody who is very important and critical, but he has been yet to deliver a hostage who they'd be able to pry some information from. And this next Uncanny issue really is about Psylocke, and I have a video out on that right now. It's my Psylocke Mutant Massacre character video. But essentially, while the rest of the gang is out and away from the mansion, Sabertooth knocks out Rogue, and then he enters the mansion, and Psylocke and him have this 1v1 that is just a phenomenal read. It's a really, really great issue. The artwork is impeccable. It's just 10 out of 10. Now, of course, Sabertooth is a pretty intense beast, as we've established already, and Psylocke, while she's a very formidable telepath, she doesn't have the durability that someone like Wolverine would have. She is just a woman. You cut her, she bleeds, and there's no healing factor to speed that up. But she does hold her own for a long while, but eventually Storm and Wolverine and Magneto make their way back to the X-Mansion. Storm hits Sabertooth, knocking Psylocke out of his grasp, and then Wolverine takes over the main fight. It's time for the aforementioned round 2. This is an equally intense fight, with Sabertooth drawing the first blood, and I really love the prose here from Claremont as he says, "This time neither tries anything fancy. Their hatred is a palpable presence in the room, the darkest side of man's primal nature brought to life." And for a while it seems like Sabertooth has the upper hand. He is just tossing Wolverine's adamantium body around. And Psylocke actually stops Magneto from quickly just ending this fight between them, because she makes the argument that if Magneto just encases and traps Sabertooth in metal, he will be captive and fully able to focus on mental resiliency, so Psylocke would have major troubles digging in and learning what he knows about the Marauders and Sinister and that plan. Because remember, they need information. They need to know why the Mutant Massacre is happening. So since Sabertooth and Wolverine are pretty equally matched for the most part, although Sabertooth is, as mentioned in this book, bigger, stronger, and faster, if Wolverine can last long enough in this fight, Psylocke will be able to just get all of the information she needs, pulling it from Sabertooth's mind while his attention is solely focused on clobbering Wolverine. And then we get a couple of truly just beautiful pages as Psylocke infiltrates their minds. And something that we learn in contrast to when Wolverine had to take some moral responsibility and save Healer, here he doesn't have the responsibility to save an injured hostage, so he is just enjoying the ferocity of what they're doing as much as Sabertooth is. And it's also re-emphasized here through Psylocke's probing that these two do have a past history. There is this talk of a bloody Wolverine on the snowscape from a previous fight that he's had with Sabertooth, as all of these images are flashing through her mind as she seeks out the information she's looking for. And these two just continue to viciously go at it. They're rolling down hills, they're at a cliff point, and that's when Psylocke gets everything that she needs and Wolverine reveals that Sabertooth just got duped by the X-Men. Now, did Sabertooth really care about giving up some of Sinister's plan? Probably not. He was just in this for the killing. But I think Sabertooth realizes here that, okay, now he's gonna have to go against Storm, Psylocke, Wolverine, and Magneto, and so he jumps off the cliff, making his escape, and Wolverine, the beast that he is, jumps off as well, following Sabertooth, saying he's not gonna get away. Rogue quickly follows and grabs Wolverine as he's in the water trying to search for Sabertooth, and he demands of her, "Let me go, let me find him." This is a major victory for the X-Men though, because they achieved what they wanted to achieve. They got the information they needed, and they can now continue down their path. And we then close out Wolverine's Mutant Massacre arc, with Wolverine no longer having any skepticism towards Psylocke, applauding her resilience, strategy, and ability to navigate the chaos of everything that had been going on, and he is ultimately the one who anoints her an X-Men. Their trust has been forged in blood, she is a member of the family now, and Wolverine sees that. And while Wolverine's Mutant Massacre arc has a lot of intense, action-packed fights and wonderful moments, I also think a lot of it is about trust. He has to trust Storm's leadership and the way that she positions him. He has to trust Psylocke's unyielding grit, and just the totality of trusting a team that he once kept at a bit of arm's length. This story, I think, really positions Wolverine as a guardian, a flawed one maybe, of Xavier's dream. And he emerges from this conflict, his claws bloodied but his resolve unbroken, a protector and a hero. Thank you everybody for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider leaving a like, comment, or subscribe to the channel for more. And with that, you all have a great rest of your day.